Alright, today we're going to give you a look at the Honda HR-V. So it's a bit different from some of the other race cars that we have on deck. This is more of a practical car in our stable, but there are a lot of things that I really like about this car. So let's get to it. First of all, I love the size and shape of this vehicle. I mean, just look at that. It's beautiful. It's not too big, but it's just as long as the average Civic, so it makes parallel parking a breeze, and you can fit into pretty much any spot and not have to worry about some of the troubles you get with a lot of bigger SUVs. The next thing I love about this car, all-wheel drive, baby. Now, I know that's not particular to just this car, but it is a feature that I love. And I tell you, there's nothing better than having all four wheels getting traction on the road. So next is another feature that's not particular to just this car, but it's actually great, which is the hatchback. Now you've got a button back here that you just press that underneath there, which actually can unlock it. Speaking of the seats going down, yeah, that's pretty average. But how many cars do you know actually come up from the bottom as well and gives you even more space? And of course, both seats do that. Pull this bar down right there to lock it in place. And now look, you've got even more room to stand stuff up. I mean, when I saw that at the dealership, I instantly knew I was buying the car. Everyone thinks it's a two-door. Everyone thinks it's a coupe. You know why? Because you only see that handle and the same one on the other side. But you know what? It is a four-door. The handle is hidden back here. Isn't that just the sexiest thing you've ever seen? I definitely love that. Gives it an even more slick look, and just overall, just look at that. Just so attractive. Car is locked. Nothing. Pick up the keys, not pushing anything. And there we go, open door. Comes in handy, you don't have to dig in your pocket every time you walk up to your car. So another thing I love about this is the dash. Definitely the dash. You can see right there, that little green light shows up whenever you're being fuel efficient. And you'll see if I start to speed up some, it goes away. But then once it levels out, it pops back up. There's also another indicator over here that shows you an approximation of what your MPG is. Now I know folks are used to having a nice screen with touchscreen abilities and such, but what I want to get into is this down here. That's all touchscreen for your climate control. And you got the oh so nice, seat warmers. Beautiful, beautiful. You can actually control temperature, on and off settings, the mode, everything, how high you want your fan. It's a very sensitive touch. It's actually really, really responsive, which I'm impressed with, by the way. And it looks great. And speaking of the screen, the next thing up is the back camera. Now, this is pretty standard on cars nowadays, but what I particularly like about this one, you can control with the touchscreen the angle at which the camera shoots. You've got different options. You can do close-up or wide angle, which is mostly the one that I use because it just gives me a better view of what's going on. And then you can go even wider to really make sure that jerk park behind you or next to you isn't going to bump into you when leaving. It's actually great. Love this feature too. And now that we're on the topic of screens, I'm going to show you guys the one feature that blows absolutely everybody's mind whenever they get into the car. It's called Lane Watch. Look at that. Everyone completely loses it when that happens. All I did was turn on my turning signal and automatically cuts this side camera on. That gives you a view of what's going on next to you so you can merge in nicely. Like I mentioned before, it's practical. The fuel economy is absolutely amazing. As you can see, I get roughly 27 to 28 miles per gallon on each trip, which for a car nowadays is actually really impressive. Alright, so as much as I love this car, as everything, it's not perfect. First and foremost, the most frustrating thing to me, there is no Apple Carplay. Nothing. Cars 2016 and up are supposed to have it. This car does not have that feature. There's no plans to upgrade the software for that feature. It's just not going to have it. I've got all these USB ports down here, but no Apple CarPlay, and no chance for that. I have an iPhone. I want Apple CarPlay. Give it to me. This I can't. This takes so long. You have to give me that notice every single time I turn my car on. I want to get straight to my music, straight to my screen. They have to give you a paragraph. Alright, so next up is this parking brake. As you can see, it's just a switch. There's no bar to pull to make sure your e-brake is up. I'm not really a fan of this. It's electric. Pull it up and you get a little notification saying that you're in park. It just doesn't quite give me the confidence as pulling a lever does. Maybe more modern cars will have this, but I really do not like that. Alright, so if you've noticed by looking at the wheel, this car does have paddle shifters, which is nice. It's nice being able to go in the manual mode and have a little bit of control in automatic. But personally, the difference in fuel efficiency when using the manual mode, it's just not worth it to me. You burn so much gas. Usually I can go about a week and a half without filling up. Whenever I drive in the manual mode, I'm filling up twice a week on average. It's just too big of a difference. It's not really worth it, especially seeing as how this thing doesn't have that much power in the first place. "13 seconds. That's how long it took to get to 60 seconds. Absolutely no power in this baby. Yeah, that's another one. Another thing I can't really stand is the lack of information when it comes to radio sources. So when you go to your settings, you can choose to turn on to have the radio display information pop up. And when you go back to the screen, it tries to cram all the information into that tiny little spot, even though there's all of this screen space there. I mean, where is the sense of that? The song title will go by. It's nice that they have that information, but why is it crammed up all the way there instead of utilizing all that other screen space? That makes no sense to me. Using your iPad or satellite radio or something, it uses that space so it can read it, but for some reason with the radio, it just doesn't. It's wasted. So I'm going to go a little bit into the aesthetics of the car now. Another thing with the design, even though I've talked about how much I love the design, this lower lip that goes around the car and up around the tires here, I'm just not really a fan of that. It looks too matte, it looks plasticky. Granted, I understand that it's a Honda, but still, I would think maybe if it had more of a glossy look or something, it would help to stand out. Even when washing my car, it's tough to get that really clean. Not really a fan of how it looks overall. I know this is particular to the model that I got, but not really a fan of the light colored seats. As you can see, it stains pretty easily. You know what that is? That's condensation from a Slurpee cup that someone had in the back seat here. Something that small, just condensation, left a mark. It's tough to see in this lighting right now, but trust me, it's there. There's another sort of a big stain over here on the side, which again is just condensation. Things just show up too much. I'm not sure if it's because of just the type of material that they use for this car, or if it's just light seats in general. I've never had a car with light seats, but not a fan of it. Won't be getting one of those again. And another big thing about this car, no pun intended, it was not intended for tall people. As you can see, if I sit up, my head touches the top of the ceiling, and that's with the hat on. I have really long hair, So sometimes I sit in here and it's guaranteed my hair is going to be messed up, which is pretty annoying. Another thing about looks, the vent on the passenger side, that's just weird to me. It's super long, wide, seems like wasted space. I don't really get it. It's a design choice, I suppose, but I'm not really a fan of it. Don't know if that counts as a fact, but I'm not a fan. All right, I know I'm going to sound like an old man for this, but another thing I don't like is the push button start. I'm not a fan of that. Do you know how many times I've parked my car, turned it off, and then immediately turned it back on? Something about pushing a red button just makes your brain want to do it over and over and over again. I don't know. I miss the days of just pulling out a key. I never restarted my car a second time when pulling a key out. I guess you just have to get used to the times.